I was born in San Diego, California in 1951. I came to Australia in 1967 and went to school at Crow's Nest Boys High School. In November, I'll be 75 years of age. So that's me. If we could have the first slide, please. Does anybody recognize this picture? This is called the pale blue dot. It was taken from the Voyager spacecraft when it was nearly 4 billion miles from Earth. It's a compilation, it's a telephoto, and that's Earth. Okay. No, he's trying to confuse me now. The ship Voyager was speeding away from the sun at 40,000 miles an hour. That's fast. But early in February 1990, it was overtaken by an urgent message from Earth. Obediently, it turned its cameras back toward the now distant planets. The spacecraft was 3.7 billion miles away from Earth. So far away, it took pixels 5.5 hours to reach us back here at the speed of light. So there we are. Carl Sagan wrote about this photograph. We succeeded in taking that picture, and if you look at it, you see a dot. That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever lived out their lives. The aggregate of all our joys and sufferings, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilizations, every king and every peasant, every young couple in love, every hopeful child, every mother and father, every inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there on a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam. There we are. Now we know where we are. Now I gotta do this. Is it the big button? Water for rivers. You might recall about 9 years ago, there was a terrible drought. Well, at the beginning of this century, there was a terrible drought, the Millennium Drought, they called it. And industry went crazy, getting their hands and their pumps on as much water as possible, and they pumped the river dry. I'm speaking specifically about the rivers of the northern basin, of the Murray Basin area. And they pumped it so dry that the river stopped. In Sydney, people got very upset that people in the West were suffering so badly because the river was just basically turned off. And so they formed an action group, a political protest group called Water for Rivers. And they came up with the symbol. The triangle represents the international symbol for water here. a triangle pointing down. The three bars, obviously, rivers flowing across the land, was their image. This is Lake Menindee boat ramp. Lake Menindee extends past that boat ramp for 18 kilometers to the far shore. That's how big it is. Has anybody been to Lake Menindee? Anybody been out there? We know how beautiful it is when it's full and how empty it is when it's empty. Menindee is a town in far western New South Wales. It's named after this lake. There's around 100 houses around at this settlement. The settlement's called Sunset Strip. And every house has at least one boat. So let's go boating. This is a photograph of the Darling Barker River, taken just upstream from Wilcannia. You can just see the towers up in the right-hand side there. That's the town of Wilcannia. And that's what the river looked like after they stopped it. Wilcannia is about 130 kilometers upstream from Menindee by road. Remember the fish kills at Menindee? The fish kills. I'm not going to show pictures of dead fish. We've all seen those. This is a yabby getting ready to climb out of the river because he didn't want to be in the water anymore. That's how bad the water was polluted. There were major fish kills at Menindee between December 2018 and January 2019. There were 3 major fish kills that month. Most people think there was only one. There was 3. And there were many hundreds of millions of fish that died. Just died. Officials claim it was a combination of low flows and temperature change that caused the fish kills. But now we better understand that a chemical cocktail caused by farm runoff is likely to have been a major contributing factor. These events stirred up a great amount of despair and anger in our cities and our rural communities. In Sydney, environmental and political actionists banded together and formed Water for Rivers because the river didn't have any water. There they are, Martin Place in Sydney. They used to go out every Wednesday. Water for Rivers ran information stalls on what was called Water Wednesday for months. Art shows, art auctions. They were banging the drum for donations, and just as a protest group, they got together a lot of support. They led marches. They created marches and joined a lot of street marches, and made a lot of submissions to governments and things. So this story that I'm telling you is about these people and how they started Water for Rivers, and it's evolved into now a Clean Water for Rivers. Just some of their posters. Fund filtration systems and water tanks. End water trading. Most people don't realize that a lot of our water is actually owned by people who live overseas. Wouldn't believe it, but it's true. So they organized, they had a fellow named Bruce Shillingsworth, who went to a meeting at the University of Sydney, and he started to ask a panel of officials about why his river was being treated so badly. And he began crying. And he couldn't stop himself from crying. And instead of hiding his face, he just cried openly to the audience and boasted that he would cry for his river because it was that sad and that important, and his heart was breaking. And Bruce did a lot of good things. He did some art exhibitions and stuff, and they raised a lot of money. They organized 2 large buses and headed for the bush with 40 cars. 2 big buses packed with people, and drove to Walgett, Burke, Wilcannia, and Menindee, and had corroborees at each one of them with bush tucker and stamping grounds. Dancers came from Queensland. There we go. See, I was supposed to read this slide. That's a picture I took from the bridge at Wilcannia. That was the corroboree that we held in Wilcannia. There were hundreds of people there. They're on the left. You can't see them. Fabulous. And these people... Okay, so Water for Rivers has now become Clean Water for Rivers. From being a strong, active, and effective protest group to an incorporated body advocating for and engaging with practical works, key words, towards better and stronger environmental protections and habitat recovery. We're getting to why I'm here. This is a picture of some blue-green algae in the Murray River in 2019. That's the Murray River, and that's what blue-green algae looks like if you haven't seen it before. There's my friend Barry Stone. He's not really shy. He's hiding behind a sign that he really, really hates. Now, these signs are posted from one end of the Darling River to the other. Do not drink this water. Do not swim in this water. Do not kayak or boat in this water. No fishing. Don't let your dog drink the water. Now, these signs are posted over 1,000 kilometers of river. And it's our government's get-out-of-jail-free card so that if anybody does get sick or die from going near the river water, they can say, well, we warned you not to do that. You brought it on yourself. Now, I've seen Water New South Wales officials standing 20 feet away from Aboriginal women fishing right next to these signs. Shocking. This is a sign from down at Wentworth, the Wentworth Shire Council. It says, this water may be contaminated with algae. Do not drink, swim, or allow pets in the water. Avoid contact with water. This is where the Murray and the Darling River meet. These are historic places, you know. These are major crossroads in this country. A large and unseen and misunderstood cause of ecological collapse, which is what we're facing here, is the massive changes that have affected the water cycle. Land clearing and over-allocation and extraction from rivers and aquifers are changing the geology of the land and impacting all life forms. It is. The miners, the opal miners at White Cliffs have had to abandon a lot of their diggings because the land out west is getting so devoid of water that the mountains are beginning to crumble and the sides of their digs are falling in. So they've got to think again. Do they render them? What are they going to do? So it's really serious. the whole Western Division of New South Wales is being dehydrated. That's Burke Weir, from the city of Burke. That's a typical picture of Burke Weir because they have water. That's where all the large irrigators live. And upstream from there, and downstream is nothing. And that's too often the case. Lately, that has not been the case, to be fair. We've had some good rains lately, but that is not an uncommon situation there. So now the whole ecosystem is collapsing, failing under the tread of international profiteers and wholesale unregulated capitalism. It all sounds big and scary because it is. Wave after wave of corporation is roaming this countryside and turning water into money. Most water in New South Wales is controlled by a handful of companies. Many of those companies are based overseas. It's not right. We've got a problem. Down in Wentworth, there's this gorgeous woman named Margaret or Marg White. She used to live on the Great Darling Anna Branch, and she is an artist. And if you can't read that, chough nest for sale, reed warbler nest for sale, owlet nightjar nest for sale, for sale, tree creeper's nest, kingfisher's nest, for sale, nest. Because the government, in its wisdom, took the Anna Branch and stopped it from flowing. And they put water supply in a pipeline to all the properties that were using it. So they said, well, all the properties have got water. We don't have to let it run down the river anymore, where it evaporates. So, end the ecosystem of the Anna Branch, the Great Darling Anna Branch. There she is. She's a scream. This is a tapestry, an embroidered tapestry at Menindee Central School. Our past, our present, our people, and there's all the families of the town there, all embroidered in representing different clan groups. And I put this up because it has the slogan, face the task. Face the task. How are we going to change that, what we've just been talking about? The wholesale slaughter of ecosystems by corporations. We have to change things. Okay. Clean water for rivers is evolving is evolving to form a knowledge link and a financial link between funding opportunities and practical work that recovers, monitors, and protects riverine, riparian, wetland, and all aquatic ecosystems. Now, we come here and we know we're surrounded by volunteers and there's love in the air and it's all beautiful. The work that we have to do in the outback of Australia and along our waterways is so massive, we cannot ever expect volunteers to do that work. It has to be paid jobs, employment, careers. People who are trained to do this work has to come up. And we have to alter the economy to accommodate that. Otherwise, we're just gonna watch the complete decline of the whole of this island. That's Trevor Woodman. He lives in Menindee. We did an inquiry about the health of the Darling River out there and the people. And he told a story about how his friend was going to commit suicide because he couldn't get any water, his stock was dying, nobody was talking to him. He was at the pub, Woody rang him, he didn't answer. As it turned out, he sent his father around just in time to save his life. And Woody broke down in tears telling that story. And he also swore he was going to blow up Cubby Station, but of course he never has. They all say they're going to blow up Cubby Station when they've had a few beers, but they're too nice to actually do it. They're not going to do it. They're too nice. They're good people out there. Clean Water for Rivers intends to help the many organizations already training people for well-paid employment and careers in restoring nature and biodiversity to country. This work implementing riverine recovery will include farmers, scientists, researchers, contractors, earthworks, heavy machinery, surveying, fencing, seed collecting, nursery duties, and hands-on planting. We're talking about a whole economic push to restore health to our rivers. If we can't keep water clean and healthy, it's not going to work. This is an aerial picture. This is a NASA photograph of the Menindee Lakes area. And you can see the Darling River coming in at the top right. It's coming down through here. Now that picture from corner to corner is about 120 kilometers. So it's not just a series of lakes, it's a region. It should have been listed under Ramsar. It should have. There was a lot of people who wanted that, but the graziers had already put fences around the place and they thought they owned it, so it didn't happen. So, Clean Water for Rivers is not opposed to mining or modern agricultural processes. But we recognize an urgent need to alter the means of agricultural production and strongly accelerate environmental recovery processes. You know, we've got to stop using chemicals. We don't need to use all these chemicals to grow food. In fact, we know that the food that we're getting from chemicals is not only bad for us, but it doesn't have any nutrients in it. These things we know. Bob Geldof said, I love this, hope is great, but it is not a strategy. Clean Water for Rivers is taking small steps toward a big strategy to repair and improve our future on planet Earth. This is the new logo. Isn't it pretty? And it has underground river there too in the middle. It's got the wave going behind the triangle. So keep an eye out for this logo and maybe put one on your car. The primary paths to survival are collaboration, sharing, and kindness. We know this is true. We are not alone in outer space because we have each other to help repair our Mother Earth. There it is. And there's Mother Earth hanging in a beam of light. And now I'll hand over to somebody to carry on, talking about clean water for rivers and also other things.
Thank you. I'd like to personally thank Mark Merritt for coming up from near Coffs Harbour to be here this afternoon. Mark has worked for a long time in this river foundation, trust, organisations with lots of different people. So to come here today and be able to tell everyone about the launch of Clean Water for Rivers is really important to Mark. So I'm Sheena Gilman. I'm the convener of BirdLife Southern Queensland and the convener of Protect the Bush Alliance. And I've been being an advocate and working in conservation for birds for over 40 years now. And I'd like to first of all acknowledge the First Nations people of the land throughout Queensland, because their elders past and present bear witness to the changes of river health over time. We hope Clean Water for Rivers will be a catalyst for change. I've been an advocate, as I said, for a long time. I need to actually retire, but I'm hoping that we get a few more wins on the board before I do. I was heavily involved in the campaign for Toondah Harbour, and as you know, that was a Ramsar site in Moreton Bay where our state governments and our federal governments, in their wisdom, was going to allow WOCA to build 3,600 apartments. Now, sadly, we would have got a new jetty out of it. It's complex. There are people that regret that. But better decisions could have been made a long time ago, and they were not made. So we had to work very hard at BirdLife for 4 or 5 years to look after our shorebirds in Moreton Bay. Most have declined to up to 70 to 74%. This year, we have witnessed the lowest count of migratory shorebirds arriving to the shores and to the bay, to Moreton Bay, than any year in the past. So we really do need our governments to accept the responsibility to look after what's left, because it is about 25%. For bushbirds, it's about 50%. So it's a real call to arms, as Mark has said. We're sort of running out of time to mess around and not get better conservation in this country. And you can see from the rivers, this is a highly contested space, because not only do the irrigators want Western Queensland, what we do in Western Queensland in terms of cubby, as Mark said, for irrigation, for pastoralists, for croppers, and for cotton, affects all the downstream river systems. So in fighting Ramsar for Moreton Bay, I was very conscious that another Ramsar site is Coonji Lakes in South Australia, and it's actually got gas wells in it. And I wondered what on earth our colleagues were doing in BirdLife South Australia, that here we were fighting very hard for Moreton Bay. Hang on, guys, why are you letting this happen in South Australia? Because although the government's doing it, we should be saying to the government, this is an international treaty. We were one of the first signatories to the Ramsar Convention. It's a little village on the Caspian Sea where everyone agreed to look after significant wetlands. We only have 5. One of them is outside Townsville, and of course that's a very heavy traffic route for exporting our minerals. Another one was also off Broad Sound, and at one stage we had Central Queensland coal mine potentially going to mine the Broad Sound, which is a high ecological wetland. Lots of significant reasons for not having a coal mine in that particular area in a coastal floodplain. Thankfully, that little nightmare went away. But we're not doing well at looking after our special places. South Australia is now much more aware of the effects of fracking. So we actually, in Protect the Bush Alliance, took up a campaign to try and keep fracking out of Western Queensland. So shale gas fracking virtually puts chemicals into every single fracking well, not so much does CSG. But if you look in Western Queensland and the river systems and the aquifers for the health of the farmers, it's a contested space and it's very difficult. So after Protect the Bush Alliance did it for a couple of years, I go gently because sometimes BirdLife is a broad church. We've got engineers and people working in the mines that are members of BirdLife. And we have to say to them, hang on everybody, you know, we really need to look after our birds. So this campaign became quite substantial, and it was called the Heart of Australia. And it was County Thunder, Lake Eyre Basin. We went and did workshops in Charleville, Thargomindah, Quailpie, Windora, right up to Balcaldon. And we did it in community centres. And we had landholders coming in because we have a huge amount of Queensland. We don't know what's happening in it. We call it data gaps. So birdwatchers tend to go up and down common roads, parks, lakes, roadsides and holiday parks where we're welcome, where we can stop. I was on a farm property at Jericho, 80,000 hectares. The neighbour has, I think, 110. That family also has 60,000 hectares. I was conscious that 2.5 million hectares doesn't have a single naturalist, has never been there. We don't have any records of what's in that countryside. So trying to be a voice for the protection of birds is actually quite challenging. So basically from the Vergemont channels at Longreach all the way down the Baku, the Cooper, right down to the border country was just not a place for fracking. And of course, you know, as we know, politicians come and go, and we all have to stand to attention. Thankfully, Stephen Miles, when he was Environment Minister, knew very well that this was a really serious issue for birdlife and that it really mattered to us. When he became Premier, we usually get something good just before Christmas, but we can also get something really bad just before Christmas, because then we all get to lament while they all go on holiday. But he gave us Channel Country, and I hope very much the current government will not repeal that decision, because it is the wrong thing to do, and we're very grateful that we can protect the bird life and the essential, incredibly important breeding areas in our western rivers. This is going to affect all the water that leaves Queensland and runs down into the areas that Mark's concerned about. Now, where's my young Jessie? So we have, Jessie's on committee of BirdLife. I'm very lucky because a lot of people say it's really hard to recruit young people into conservation these days. I've got 4 young smarty pants all doing PhDs on committee. Jessie's been studying birds on fruit farms, and Callan Alexander's he's going to speak at our conference. We've got a really nice bird conference at Surrey on the 25th of July. If you're bird watchers, come and join us. He's been doing his PhD on birds on vineyards, which is going to turn out to be very interesting. But for the moment, our major problem is trying to get people to monitor remote areas. As Mark said, it's very hard to get out to Western Queensland. You've got to go out there. You need a big truck to go. You've got to go when the weather's good to you. We need more monitoring. So I just quickly will put on those slides. Jessie can see better than me. So just to try and persuade the government prior to the election to get on, deliver an election commitment, they make these commitments. We have them from Minister Plibersek. No net loss, nature positive. Agree a traffic light system. If this is a really bad development, we'll say, no, we're going to make it really red instantly. This isn't happening. Where is this, you know, you can do that because there's a green light, you can't possibly go into those areas. So this is what breeding, this is 40,000 pelicans, by the way, out in Channel Country. So this one, Jess? The big one? No, it's back. The top one? Yeah, the big one. It's not wanting to do that. Oh, here we go. Just look at that, amazing. This is a beautiful image by a guy called Tom Putt. And isn't that just absolutely lovely? And this landscape, this is such an extraordinary geological feature. It is not ours to waste. Don't you love technology? Do you want to press that wee button, Jessie, on the computer?
He's got to press it harder.
Just do it, sweetheart. You know, isn't it nice when you're old, you've got a young thing? Look at the colorscape. You wouldn't believe that that's on an aeroplane. So in our conference, actually, Right Sayer's giving us 2 free tickets for someone to win in our raffles, $2,500. And wouldn't you just love to fly over a landscape that looked like that when you're looking down? And these are wetlands. These are pictures. I've been out there. There's a freshwater spring on a station that's going to be mined for coal. It's got a nature refuge on it. Should not be mined. Next one, Jess. And this is what the the Triodia grasses look like out in the desert country, and all these amazing animals. So we're always fussing about koalas. My goodness gracious me, what about that chap over there on the left? You know, his habitat is just as important. Desert peas and beautiful desert grevillea. And our budgies. Who doesn't love a budgie? These magnificent birds, thank you to lovely friends Angus Emmett and I think the Bulgar's mine, but just lovely images that we were able to use in our campaign. 10 million birds relying on finding this water in the floodplain country. Is that probably all I've got? So we can have that. This is the forest out at Barracuda. So Chinchilla Miles and Roma, we fought hard out there. We haven't won that, of course. We've just got another expansion of gas, and one of the developments is going to be 6,000 more wells. Each one of those dots is a well. That fragments forests. We get drying effects. Little birds can't cross 300 or 400 metre strips to breed. The whole forest will just not function as it ought to. And this is what we get instead. So I won't labour that point because I'd like to introduce you to Jess to talk about bird monitoring. If you're bird watchers and naturalists, we need your data, we need your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheena. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners where we are gathering today, and very happy to be here. Thank you, Sheena. So going on with something I'm pretty passionate about, data. So we can all contribute to collecting data on our birds, and we know that birds are really important bioindicators, particularly surrounding water, healthy water and watering landscapes. Birds follow water. A lot of our birds are migratory as well. So BirdLife Australia have the longest running database of bird sightings. It's provided by surveys done by professional scientists, citizen scientists, and the data is used nationally to understand trends in the occurrence of birds, breeding patterns, everything we need to know to inform the state of Australia's birds. And this is a report that's created annually and used to support decision making by our policymakers. So we can all get involved in this, and the best part is it's very fun and you get to be outdoors in nature. So if you haven't got the Bird Data app, it's very simple to download. Just kind of create an account and get some resources to help with IDs if you're new to birding. So there's some great field guides, field apps, and some binoculars, of course. So you can head out, decide where you want to survey, and go out and count all the birds you can see. This is a bit leading on from what Sheena was saying about the kind of richness of data across this part of Queensland. So you can see that near the coast, and particularly in some of our national parks, we have a lot of good data coming in from people doing a lot of bird surveys, which is fantastic. And there are also a lot of areas with very small dots. So if you know people with private land, or you yourself live close or nearby some of these areas that are more data deficient, it's great to be able to visit these places more so we can understand what's happening to our birds in these areas. There's a couple of methods that if you use, the data is particularly beneficial for feeding directly into BirdLife's data analysis. And that is the 2 hectare 20-minute survey method. This can happen kind of in any rectangular shape that's 2 hectares in area. And then if you do a survey about a 500 metre kind of radius from a 2 hectare area, this is an embedded survey, and this allows you to kind of spend more time searching an area outside just 2 hectares. So usually you might see some other birds that you didn't inside the 2 hectare area, and it might cover, for example, a walk around a lake or water body. Another thing that people are using more and more to collect data on birds and other species is sound, and using recorders. You might have seen some things like this. We're even putting them in the water now. So they're really helpful for recording wildlife in hard to get to places that we can leave these recorders out. They can collect data for much longer time windows, which is really useful for understanding the activity of birds over maybe weeks or months. Like I said, great for birds, frogs, bats, marine species, and we're also now sticking microphones in the ground to look at microfauna in soils, which is really interesting and can be used to help indicate the health of our soils as well. We can also use some really cool tools to help us recognise the species that are being detected by the recorders in the field. This can help us answer questions much more easily, and that they include how many species occur here, are there any migratory species, and when are they occurring at this site, and when are species breeding, like for example our pink cockatoo, which is a inland and kind of drier, arid occurring species in Australia. If you've been lucky to spot them, they're absolutely gorgeous. And so the recognisers work by translating the sound into an image pattern, which it then recognises as a signature of an individual species. So for example, pink cockatoo, noisy miner, budgies. just to kind of briefly link our pink cockatoo as an indicator of water health, it relies on permanent water sources and does move with water. So they have very different distribution patterns year to year depending on water availability in the landscape. They nest in large hollow-bearing trees. Riparian habitats are very important for them, and also their range has sadly been retracted by land clearing, of course. So a bit of audience participation. I thought very quickly, we've got a minute. I'm going to play each of these calls. One of them is our pink cockatoo. So see if you can pick which one that is. They are all cockatoos, so it is a little bit tricky. Anyone have a guess for which one was the pink cockatoo? Oh. Love it. Great guessing. Number 2 was a pink cockatoo. And we had a soft-crested and a bit of a tricky one, not from around here, gang cockatoos. Yeah, let's hear it again. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jess. Jess is about to get a PhD, so I'm going to wish her good luck in advance,
Thank you.
which is wonderful. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. It's really, really easy to be in touch with us at BirdLife Southern Queensland. Our website at the moment is completely shocking, but it's been modernised. It's been a work in progress. I don't know how this little thing was so good for Jessie and so bad for me, but never mind. And anyone that doesn't have a bird book and wants to learn a few birds, I've got some freebies to give away, so come and say hello. Thank you very much for being here. And one of the best ways to know about river and lakelands and billabongs and things is to record birds, because we know them, we can see them. It's much harder to look for small things, the little macro invertebrates and all these other things that are just as important. Birds are loud and proud, so let us know where your birds are, and thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.